Greg Fehrenbach, 408 Redwood Boulevard. First, I would like to express my appreciation for ordinance 2026-30 that you introduced this evening. I think that is a valuable and important thing to do for the community. Secondly, I'd like to commend the mayor and the council on taking a conservative approach to the funds that were generated from the sale of the church that come out as municipal assets and dedicating them to the defeasance of debt service and the payment for capital purposes over the next several years. I want to be able to correct some statements that were made at the last governing body meeting. What was stated erroneously was that the reason for the need for $350,000 was that, quote, the previous borough's administration did not set aside sufficient funds for the cost of the UFCW settlement. As a longtime member of this taxpaying community, and as one who was intimately involved in the 2024 negotiations, I would like to understand and make the governing body aware of what they may not be aware of the extremely high cost of the UFCW settlement and the reasons why those costs were not included in the 2025 budget. See, in both the 2023 and the 2024 budgets, we reserved sufficient funds to be able to cover a reasonable increase for the UFCW contract based on guidelines from the state of New Jersey and based on regional settlements that have taken place. A total of around $200,000 was set aside from 2023 and the 2024 budgets and were encumbered for the purposes of making those payments. However, the offer that was made within the state of New Jersey guidelines and the market rate was not what was paid out. The contract that was negotiated cost the borough almost 3 times, yes, 3 times what was previously offered by the borough to the union and was reserved in those budgets as stated before. The contract was settled and retroactive salaries were paid before the 2025 budget was introduced and before it was adopted. The governing body had more than sufficient time to have included any additional monies that may have been needed in the 2025 budget. Why is it necessary to blame others for the costs that were incurred under this settlement? And why did the administration and the governing body not fund these excessive costs when all obviously knew what those costs were before the budget was introduced or adopted? The contract was signed on the 9th of April, 2025. The governing body approved it on or about the 15th of April, 2025. The budget wasn't adopted until May. It would have been within your capability to have included any of what those costs were in the 2025 25 budget. Retroactive salary calculations were completed by April 15th. I'm assuming that's 5 minutes.
It is.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have answers to all of those questions. I'm not going to get into a debate now. Mr. Fehrenbach, you and I actually sat down in my office when I was over there, and I took you through pretty extensive detail of why the earlier numbers that were set aside encumbered, you referenced 200,000, it was almost 300. It was the prior administration encumbered close to 280,000 is what was shared with me as new mayor. That was still half of, you're right. You were saying 3 times, but it was roughly double what was encumbered that we actually had to pay. And I took you through PowerPoint slides showing that the average increase over that 4-year midpoint to midpoint span of the contracts was 3.5%. So what we're not going to debate now, you had your comments, I'll just make my comments, and I welcome the opportunity to talk with you later, is that your comment that the original offers were somehow reasonable. I think your exact wording was reasonably, it was a reasonable increase. You didn't settle a contract for almost 2.5 years, sir. I don't know how reasonable that is. At the end of the day, on an average increase of 3.5% over 4 years, midpoint to midpoint, that by most standards is reasonable. However, it did require an extra $300,000, give or take, relative to what was encumbered. So I'd gladly walk you through those. You and I could go on for a long time tonight. I think we're both better served if we don't do that. I just felt it was necessary for me to at least provide a quick response to your assertions. So be more than happy to meet with you. If anything comes out of that conversation that tells me I'm somehow mistaken, I will gladly address that publicly, admit that I'm wrong. I know I'm not, but I will gladly address that. Yes, sir, you'd like to make a
May I
follow-up?
just respond to
Please.
There are several things that I probably would like to go over with you, but when you have essentially an 11.5% increase in 2023 and an 11.5% increase in 2024, and you have a regional settlement level of about 3.5, and you have a state set of guidelines of 2%, that comes to approximately 3 times, nearly 3 times what was a reasonable offer. When you give a union more things than they ask for, it's very easy to reach a settlement. And when a union believes that they're going to be able to do better in the future than they are in the present, they're going to bide the time to be able to do better in the future.
Thank you, sir. And we should talk so I can show you why I disagree.